Hi! Welcome to your tutorial on how to clean this espresso machine. Before we start any cleaning, you're going to just want to go in and grab all your cleaning supplies. The most important ingredient is our Puro because it is basically concentrated citric acid, which dissolves all those oils that build up on the equipment. And I also have a plastic tub for our equipment to go into. Spoiler alert, only the metal parts of the equipment are ever going to be exposed to water. Screwdriver for when we remove the dispersion screen, which is underneath. And we have our scrub brush. And a rack. This one's damp, which is appropriate for the underside of the machine and the drip tray. But just in general, we never want to have anything wet on top of the machine. Ever. Clean it with a dry rag. Let's get started. Let's make our cleaning concoction. That's probably plenty, like a good shake. And then we're going to add some hot water in here because it dissolves the Puro the best and it dissolves the coffee that might be hanging out. I will show you how to measure if there's an appropriate amount of solution in here. We're going to keep our cleaning station as relatively close to the machine as possible, just so that we don't have to lose track of anything and we don't have to risk burning ourselves going back and forth from the sink. We're going to take our first portafilter, this rag right here to show you so it doesn't go all over the place. I'm going to tap out the portafilter. Easy peasy. You can do it with your hands, but again, it's been sitting under the hot machine, so to just prevent injury or burns, just maybe use the back of the screwdriver. And then also, if you look in here, there's a spring, and it doesn't really look like a spring, but it is a spring. It's just a wire that we want to remove so that we can eventually scrub in this ring that is inside the portafilter, which holds the basket. I would come over here and I would submerge it into our solution to let it soak for a little bit, but I want to be really careful because I never want this wood to hit the solution. And it looks like it might if I let it just sit in there, so I'm just going to take this and pour it down the rinse it. And let's check that. Again, just take it out, put it over your towel, pop out the basket, go in and remove our spring, and that's really hot, so I'm going to get in here with the screwdriver because I want to prevent burns. And look at that, it sprung right out because it's a spring. Doesn't look like it, but it sure does spring. So we're going to put that right there, and then we're going to put our portafilter in here, make sure the wood isn't touching the solution. And that looks about good. Then put the baskets in, put the springs in there. We have 4 more pieces that need to go in here. And they are hiding in the group heads. Not hiding because we're going to find them. We're just going to use the screwdriver again because this is all really hot equipment. Got that temperature variable going on. So just be as careful as possible to avoid burns. And it should fall out. And that was really hot. But luckily we haven't pulled a shot in a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. Then I'm just going to throw these guys into our concoction. And this screw, we just want to be super mindful of. We don't want to lose it. Small but mighty. Look after it. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the left one. And just for precaution, I'm going to use a towel to cover my hands. No amount of cleaning is worth injury, and we want to be careful. Let's get in here. And lefty-loosey, the screw, and I'm just kind of pressing up on the bottom of the screwdriver to kind of create tensions and traction, and I'm just going to keep screwing. And this is great because you can seal our dirty grinds, which is great motivation for cleaning the machine. We're almost there, water's coming out, but we got that rag protecting our hand. Take it, and then what I did over here, but with a rag, I'm just twisting the screwdriver. The screws come out, and pop that in there, screw, mighty, pop that in there. Now we have all of our components from our machine that need to soaking. And while that's soaking in hot water with Puro, go in with our scrub brush, and I'm just gonna dip it into our solution. I'll pull it a little closer because I can. And I'm gonna get our scale out of the way. She's not doing anything for us, and we don't want to get her wet at all. That would be bad. Scrub brush. And I'm just gonna get under there, and I'm just gonna start scrubbing the underneath portion of the group head to remove all of the grinds that are still hanging out under there. And the thing that's great about our SLAYER espresso machine is that we have this mirror right here that shows the underside of the group head to make sure that we're getting our group head as clean as possible. And that is looking pretty clean. And then what I like to do is go in with a rag, and again, being really careful because this can be really hot. And I just, again, look in the mirror and I get in all of the crevices of the group head, because the brush is effective, is a little bit less effective in all the creases that are further up in the group head. So I'm just getting all around there, and you can see that the brush did not get these grinds, but we did. So once we are confident that that is as clean as possible, we're gonna come over here and do the same thing on this side. Just dip the brush in our solution. Get under here. Look, don't be afraid to really get in there because those grinds are stubborn little buggers. So scrub brush back in our solution. Take our rag to really get in all those crevices, and that's a great example of why we use our rag. Grind buildup just is not our friend. It's harder to get off than stuff that's just, you know, been there day of. Just a little hack for cleaning into the crevices of the group head. You can use the spoon that's probably hanging out in your extra grind shot glass. And I'm just going to take the rag and put it over here and basically just use it as a way to get all the way in to these crevices. And again, you can look in the mirror. SLAYERs are great for that. And not much is in there because we did just kind of go in and clean it freehand, but that's a great example of what you can do. And also another little life hack is you can turn the paddle all the way to the left when you scrub so that water comes out, and then you can check the head of the scrub brush to see if there's any grinds. And this is a great example of a clean group head because there are no grinds hanging out on this, and you can also kind of tell with like whether or not the water is running clear. Our next step in cleaning the machine is back flushing. Why is back flushing important, you ask? Because our machine is just going to suck up some of the grinds when we're pulling shots. The way that this works is basically there's two boilers in here that connect to the steam ones with the group heads, and so the channels can basically build up with coffee grinds and milk and things that don't belong in the machine. Because again, clean equipment, clean tasting espresso. We can also use back flushing for when our shots are pulling weird, because that might mean that there's buildup in the channels. But regardless, we should be doing that every hour or so. How do we back flush? We are going to grab our portafilter. You'll see this one has a basket in it that doesn't have any holes in it. This is called a blind portafilter, and this is essential for back flushing because the water has nowhere to go, which means it's going to go back flush into the machine. All the grounds that are in there or any of the buildup in there is going to just get back flushed. Does it go?
Away.
You don't need to know. That's classified. Blind portafilter and our Puro, because we're going to back flush the machine with Puro. So we're going to take our scrubby brush, which also doubles as a measuring spoon for our Puro. I'm gonna just put this down. We wanna make sure it's as dry as possible, just so that we're not putting any liquid in here. We don't want it to get caked up or disturbed. We just want it to be as dry as possible. So I'm just gonna put it in, scoop it out, shake it off, even it out, pour it in there. And that was probably even just like a little bit too much. I didn't level it off but as great, but that's about what you're looking for. So we're gonna put this just back in there. I'm gonna take the portafilter with the Puro in it, and I'm gonna bring it over to the group head. And I'm gonna make sure it's nice and tight in there. And then I'm going to move the paddle all the way to the left for 10 seconds. A little tip to keep yourself in check when you're backflashing the machine is use your timer. Easy peasy. You don't have to stop and start every 10 seconds. You can just wait 10, 20, 30, 10-second increments. Easy. And we're going to turn it all the way to the right so that there's no water going through. We're just going to let it sit for 10 seconds. And then once those 10 seconds are up, we're just going to go back to the left, wait 10 seconds, turn it off, wait 10 seconds, one more time. So you want 3 times in total to the left, 3 times in total to the right. 10-second increments for each. And while that's happening, you can be scrubbing your equipment because it's been soaking long enough. Again, you want to be really careful of any of the solution getting on the wood, so just to avoid that getting everywhere, I'm just going to grab a clean rag so that we can put them to the side while we scrub everything else because we don't want solution touching the wood. So let's be as careful as possible with that. I'm just going to lay these here for now. An important part of the equipment that I forgot to mention is gloves, because this solution is really caustic with the citric acid and we want to take care of our hands. So water's been sitting long enough. One of the reasons why we let it soak is also so that the water temperature can just go down a little bit, so you're not putting your hands in boiling hot water. The water's still pretty warm, not so warm that we can't put our hands in here. We're just gonna use the brush and we're just gonna really scrub. Oh, that's so satisfying. It's all getting all sudsy. So I'm gonna flip it over, scrub the inside. You can scrub hard, really get in there. I'm just gonna set off to the side, and it's eventually gonna get rinsed off when we put it back up into the pure pet, because that water that comes out after we backflushed it is gonna be clean. I've completed this one, and I've almost completed this one, but I'm gonna teach you about sneezing. We backflushed this side with Puro. We added more Puro to this when we switched over to this side. We want to make sure that we backflush all the Puro out of the machine, or else it's going to build up and then it's going to prevent our baristas in the morning from being able to use the machine. We just want to make sure this runs with clear water eventually. And right now it's looking a little not so clear. Put our blind portafilter back up in there nice and tight. So I wrapped a towel around it just to protect my hand in case the water decides to sneeze all over me. Just gonna knock it to the pre-infused phase, and we're gonna watch this pressure go up to just in between 0 and 3. And then we're gonna knock it to the left to release the pressure, and then put it back and watch it go again, and just do that. And then I don't know if you totally picked up on it, but it kind of made like a little releasing pressure noise. And we're just gonna check the water. I've already done this a couple times behind the scenes, so the water's already looking pretty clear. But just as another example, we're gonna pretend that it wasn't looking super clear. I'm just gonna do it one more time. So we're putting in the blind portafilter, pulling it all the way tight. We have a towel just to protect for any sneezing water. And we're gonna knock it one to the left. We're gonna just watch the pressure build, see if we can't catch it on the audio. All right, let's release it. I'm not sure if you heard that. But there was a lot of pressure build up. Our water's looking clear. Whoever's training you will show you how to get the group head sneezing. We have backflushed the machines. Our water is running clear. Everything's looking clean. Behind the scenes, I also went through and scrubbed everything. And now we have this dirty water, which I'm gonna dump it down the pitcher rinser. And then while that's still got some solution in it, I'm just gonna grab our scrub brush that we use on the machine and just kind of get in there and scrub around. And just be careful because the pitcher rinser is really sensitive, so you can spray water everywhere really easily. I'm just kind of pulling up on it because it's pushing down on it is what's gonna send water up. Run it underneath the group head, get some hot water on there. And again, I'm just pulling up on it, and that is already looking like 4 shades lighter. That's kind of gnarly, actually. It's really gnarly. All right, clean up our station a little. Now, what we can do, just put our machine back together. I'm gonna start with the dispersion screen and the screw that we didn't lose. And I am just going to take this towel to prevent any burns, because again, it's hot equipment. And I'm just gonna rotate it, get it screwed in there, and I'm gonna then take the screwdriver And oh, it's so clean down here. Just screw it in, and we're gonna know when it's in all the way because the screw isn't gonna do any more give. And there's no more than I can screw this. Like there's no give at all. So that's when you know that it's in there and that it's good. And I'll do that on the other side. And I'll just get a little like close-up look on that. We just want to make sure that this screw is sealed onto the dispersion screen as possible because your water is already, there's so much pressure, so it's going to find the path of least resistance, and if there's any space in there, it's going to go through around the screw, and we don't want that. We want it going through the dispersion screen only because we want our shot to pull as evenly as possible for the best tasting espresso. And this is what's sitting on top of the puck, so it's pretty cool. Take our towel just to avoid getting any burns. And just screwing it in there. Alright, so I've got that screw in there, and I'm just going to go in with a screwdriver now. And again, we just want that sealed to be as tight as possible, and I'm just double checking too while I'm under here that everything's looking spick and span, and it most definitely is. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to rebuild our group heads. We're going to slip the spring back in there, and remember the spring holds the basket, and it is. So I put that in there. Then once that spring is in there, I'm going to just take the basket, and this is a little, yeah, and then you just press the basket back in and it kind of clicks and locks into place. And you can kind of check the outside of it, and that's pretty much what we want it to look like. It's not rotating or anything, so that's how you know it's on there. And then we're just going to pop it back up into our group head, and we're going to do this other one. So basically all I'm doing to get in here is I'm just lining it up with that channel that is looking really clean because I scrubbed it out, just lining it up, and boom, pops right back in. You'll get it. I believe in you. And then we're just going to pop the basket back in, and I just pinched myself. So that's a great example of what not to do. Go from the top, don't squeeze it. Use a rag. Rags are your friend. They clean, they protect you, they dry things off. I'm gonna put it back up into the group head. Want to clean out our drip tray next. So I'm gonna take this part off and put it over here for now. This is our drip tray. It looks very much like a tray right now. It's done its job. It's been collecting debris that's dripped out from our group heads over the course of cleaning it, and we want to make sure that we do this after we purge our group heads because that's just an order of operations that makes sense. That's the most efficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a big pitcher here, and I'm just going to get some hot water, and make sure that you're only holding onto the handle because these pitchers can get really hot. So if you're holding obviously anything but the handle, it's going to burn. And then I'm just going to pour this hot water in a back and forth motion, and that is going to encourage all of the grinds that have built up on the drip tray to float down into the drain. I'm going to grab the scrub brush, scrub at the seams, right, and then I'm going to scrub around the drain and maybe in the drain a little bit, give it a little rinse. Alright, so I just grabbed a rag and turned it into a sandy rag. It's damp, it's not super wet, and we're just gonna wipe this down. And eventually we're gonna scrub it, but we're gonna scrub it on the machine. We're just gonna get the underside of it. Look at that. That's why we like rags. These edges are really sharp, so again, just grab a rag if you need to. With the rag, getting all the espresso. Eventually we're gonna go through and do like a final polish to get all the water off. Yeah, that rag is looking pretty gnarly. Alright, so I'm gonna take this back over the machine. I'm just gonna get in here and scrub at the crevices. Again, use our scrub brush. And really get in there. Something else that we can get with a rag. Great. And get this crease here. Really getting in there. Dry rag now and just get up all this. So that's looking great and clean. And before we stick it back onto the machine, I'm just going to grab our rag and go in on the back of the machine, wipe it down, and also just being really careful of this lip. It can make you. Also This is looking pretty clean, kind of easy to forget about because it's out of sight, out of mind. But I just kind of get in there with the rag just to make sure, because a lot of the spray likes to end up in here and underneath the channel. So you can't really see it, but it's there. I just check underneath the drip tray for any espresso that's kind of dripped down. Obviously, like, these are all super sensitive things that I don't know the specifics of. There's our little temperature reader, which is again something that we don't play with. Get under here and just wipe at espresso that's dripped down. Just because if we didn't clean it, it would just build up, and then it would be harder to get. It'd be harder to clean the buildup. So we're just cleaning this to prevent buildup. Doesn't have to be perfect. Do our best, and that's already looking a hell of a lot cleaner than it did before. We're gonna call that done. Drip tray and put it back on. We're gonna take our dry rag and we're gonna go through and polish everything. Nothing wet on top of the machine, so I'm just gonna take the dry rag and just like the fingerprints and stuff, and just get in there with like a little bit of elbow grease. It should come off. Build up on the rags. It happens pretty fast, so just switch it up every couple swipes or so, because the dust can really build up, and then you're just kind of rubbing dust around. Great. And then these don't really need to be on top of the machine, they can be living underneath it. There's just a lot of dust buildup on here. Just gonna wipe that all off. That's already building up, so I'm just gonna switch it up again, wipe off the back. Our final step for cleaning the machine is our little friends, the steam wands. We haven't used them in a while, so I thought now would be just a good opportunity to show the inside of the steam wand head. It can get like kind of gross, because when you're using it during the day and you are purging the steam wand, it can kind of get untwisted, and I've kind of noticed that it likes to build up in this little crease. So I just kind of will roll it down a little bit and just get in there with the sandy rag. I did it the other day, so it's not super built up, but I think if it's not done every once in a while, just check it. It can't hurt to check. Check this one. And that is looking pretty clean, so that's fine. Some Puro into the bottom of these pitchers. You could use this guy that's nice and dry, so it can get caked up in there. Boop. And you can see if that is about what you're looking for. So we're gonna cap this off. Yeah. And then we're gonna bring it over here. And we're gonna fill these with hot water, being really careful to make sure that we are only touching the handle. Our solution that we washed. We have the solution from. I'm crashing.
You're doing great.
So now we're going to use the Puro solution to purge the group heads, to backflush the group heads, to purge to backflush the steam wands.
Yeah.
Now we're going to use a solution to backflush the steam wands. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it like I would steaming milk. And then I'm just going to let it sit to soak. And then I'm going to come over here and do that with this one as well. Just like, just imagine that it's milk. That sit, and then basically we just let these soak while we keep cleaning, closing. I'm obviously going to let these soak because there's a couple more things I have to do before we close today, but in a world where these have soaked for at least 15 or 20 minutes, I would come and I would just empty the pitchers What?
So I'll say.
Yeah, so for purging the steam wands, I've made the solution and I've stuck both of the pitchers underneath the steam wands, and I've actually gone back through with a larger pitcher and topped off the water. And I just did that so that I wasn't like sloshing hot water everywhere. And we left these pitchers soak overnight. Water on the outside is also up to that line on the inside, so any milk in there is gonna break up and dissolve from the lactic acid. Is just gonna get in there and dissolve all the milk that's hiding in there. And then also before I topped it off with water, I basically just went in and just pulled this for like a second and then back and forth a couple times quickly, kind of like we did on this, but just with this. And pulling the lever back and forth just encourages the back and forth up and down the steam wand, which all works together with the Puro to just dissolve any of the buildup. So we're gonna let those soak overnight. Opening will come in and, empty the pitchers and wipe down the steam wands. And then for a moment in time, the espresso machine will be clean. Tomorrow it will start clean, and that means that we'll have good tasting espresso and all will be well. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to clean it. The espresso machine appreciates it. Thank you for sticking out this tutorial on how to clean the espresso machine. Congrats!